Welcome back to the Sports Pod. We are going to be talking some NFL recapping week 14. And believe it or not, we are already to week 15. The season is flying by. I'm here with my man, Max. How are we doing today, man?
Doing good, man. Finals are wrapping up for us, so it's more time for football. So excited to dive in here.
Yeah, man, I just had a test and a project that I just got done right before we got on here. So school's keeping us busy, but we're closing down here. Got just a few days left. Let's get right into some recaps. So last week, Thursday Night Football, Packers at Lions. Lions win that one 34-31. Dan Lanning, Dan Campbell. Both of them, actually. But Dan Campbell, he's
hmm
got some balls, man. The Lions end up going 4 for 5 on fourth down conversions. And really ended up helping them win that game. One of those drives is 4th and 1 on their own side of the field, I believe inside their own 30. And they end up going and scoring a touchdown on that one. It did bite them when they didn't get it because it was, it was in their own territory. Packers ended up scoring a touchdown on the back end of stopping that 4th and 1. But they sealed the game essentially with a fourth down conversion. And man, when the money is on the line, Dan Campbell, dude, he's got the balls to do it. Do not let that man into Vegas. He'll probably never walk out. How did you feel about that one?
Get that man a wheelbarrow, bro. It's insane. I, it's interesting to see, when you see, all the talking heads now, where it's like, oh, was it a good decision? Was it not? We can't believe this Dan Campbell guy is taking all these risks, right? Especially the last one, where Jared Goff falls while he's handing the ball off, and they still manage to pick it up, right? But in my opinion, if your mindset is we're an aggressive football team, and you show that for pretty much the entirety of 4 quarters on 4th and inches, why would you all of a sudden become conservative? Like I would rather just see consistency from a head coach. Dan Campbell says the Lions are an aggressive football team. We believe we have 4 downs to pick up every single first down. That's fine with me. That's the mindset. Go for it. And it's been working for them. The results speak for themselves. They have one loss, and they're the first in the NFC. So, as far as people getting mad at this risky play calling, well, just look at the results, and at least it's consistent, right? People hated Brandon Staley last year on the Chargers because he was this big analytics guy, but his decisions were never consistent. Sometimes he'd punt, sometimes it just never made sense. At least this is consistent. So I appreciate what they're doing. They're freaking killing it. That was a phenomenal game. From the Packers standpoint, I think what we're seeing is that they've had a few tests now, right, against the upper end of the NFC with the Vikings, with the Lions, and they've just fallen short on those games. And that's okay. They've been in those games. They're kind of knocking on the door of being a tier one contender. So I'm not worried about the Packers by any means, but they're definitely just a tier below the top contenders.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they're sitting right there. They're playing good games with really quality teams. Jared Goff in this one went 32 for 41, 283, 3 touchdowns and a pick. He continues to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. You know, I think it's still kind of the narrative kind of haunts him and follows him around a little bit, but it shouldn't. I mean, he's really good and he's continued to prove that year over year. Like you said with the fourth down stuff, man. Dan Campbell is consistent. He's gonna go for it. You know what you're gonna get out of him, and so if it fails, you don't get to get mad at the one time it fails and then without celebrating the fact that it's going to work the majority of the time. And that's what we've seen. I mean, you've got the best running back tandem in the NFL. You've got one of the best short yardage backs in David Montgomery and the best play caller in the NFL. So use your advantage, use all 4 downs. I'm with it. Plus, you give up one score. Well, I'm going to trust my offense to go get that score right back. Their offense is absolutely lethal, man. So I like it, especially in a situation where they do have 13 players on the IR and most of them are defense. Where you're like, you know what, our offense is what we're hanging our hat on this game, and that they're going to go win us the football game. So you got to trust your offense, and they did, and ends up winning in that game. They put up 34 points. So hats off to the Lions on that one. Any other thoughts on that game?
No, I'm good for that one. Good for this.
Yeah. All right, Seahawks Cardinals, man. As a Hawks fan, finally, the Hawks are not in like a terrifying late game scenario, and that's been consistent for years on years. Hawks win this one 30-18. Kyler Murray throws 2 picks in the first quarter, and the Hawks pull away early. And it never was really in danger from that point on. But once they did get that 2-score lead, man, Cardinals have lost 3 in a row now. They dropped down to 6-7, and man, Hawks defense is starting to look better. They are 4-0 after the bye week. They were left for dead, 4% playoff chance. They rattled off 4 in a row here, including wins against the Niners and the Cardinals, which are big ones. So, good stuff from the Hawks, bad stuff from the Cardinals. Really, kind of the epitome of trending up and trending down in this game. And you saw it play out on the field. What'd you see out of this one?
Hawks defense has arrived, man. I mean, in the last 4 games, they've allowed 18, 21, 6, and 17. That ain't half bad, man. In the Jets game, they had some crazy fluky, plays. So the defense has arrived. This is what the Hawks, were looking for when they went and hired Mike McDonald. And it took a little bit, but we're finally seeing it now. So as a Hawks fan, you got to be stoked that one, the hire, and two, that the product's actually being put on the field. So that's awesome. As far as the Cardinals go, tough. You guys lost, 3 in a row, but this is kind of what we've been saying. This is the team before the team. It's awesome that this season the Cardinals are even in, relevant matchups in the latter half of the season. Nobody even thought they'd be here at this point, right? So if you're the Cardinals, don't stress it. This is the team before the team. You got a lot of hope going into the next season. Um, while I felt good about the Hawks win, I still I'm worried about the Rams, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. That's a dangerous team. So the Hawks, while they have control of the West right now, they got to put some serious work in order to maintain control and still, get that one of the top 4 seeds.
Yeah, they got a tough schedule coming up, and we'll get into that a little bit. Let's talk about that Rams game, man. Rams and Bills, 86 combined points. Josh Allen, just give him the MVP. I mean, I know I was on the Lamar MVP train earlier, but Josh Allen just continues to do ridiculous stuff. He has 6 total touchdowns, 3 rushing, 3 passing. I played against him in fantasy. He puts up 53. I lose this week, even though I score 160. Pretty frustrating from a fantasy owner perspective, but man, Josh Allen, he is that guy. He runs past people. He runs over people. It doesn't matter if you're a linebacker, a defensive end. He'll throw you. He'll throw the ball 60 yards down the field on an absolute rope. That offense is explosive. The defense did not show up in this game. Obviously the Rams put up 44, but great game. Do you think that was the game of the year?
As far as like just pure shootout goes, yeah, absolutely. We haven't had too many of these this year. Just with the way NFL has kind of swung, it's kind of gone towards defense this year, and so just to get a nice shootout every once in a while is fun. So yeah, this is probably my game of the year so far. Maybe one of the Bengals Ravens games is probably up there, but yeah. As far as I think the game-winning decision here was 4th and 5. The Buffalo 24 only up. Let's see, what would they have been up by then?
They were just
Um,
up 3.
yeah, they were up 3 points there, right? So if you kick a field goal, Bills could go down, score a touchdown, and win the game. What does Sean McVay do? Keeps the offense out there. Trusts an offense that's already put up a gazillion points to go pick up a 4th and 5, and that wins them the game. Man, they go score a touchdown after that, and he was correct because what does Josh Allen do? He immediately goes down and scores a touchdown, right? So that was the game-winning decision right there. Um, Overall, it was just electric, just offense everywhere. Just two quarterbacks playing at the highest level. So this is why the Rams. This is why I've been high on the Rams being a super dangerous team. And I wouldn't stress it if you're a Bills fan. You got caught by a dangerous team on the road. That's okay. The defense is just not a super talented defense, so they're going to be prone to drop a few performances like this. But when you got a quarterback like Josh Allen, he's going to keep you in every game. So not too worried about the Bills.
Yeah, no, I definitely think this is more of a referendum on the Rams being dangerous. We saw it last year too, where they came in screaming hot at the end of the season. They end up playing a really good game with the Lions, get bounced in the first round. Then the Lions end up looking really good the rest of the
Mm.
playoffs. So you look at that and you go, well, the Rams really did have a great close this season last year. Just want to highlight too when we're looking at good performances. Puka Nakua, 14 targets on those, 12 receptions, 162 yards, and a tutty. I mean, dude is lethal. They got Cooper Kupp, and then you mess around and let them get another good wide receiver for Matt Stafford and Puka Nakua. And I mean, as Richard Sherman used to say, that's the type of result you're going to get, man. Like they just ball. They put up points, and they're scary. No one wants to play them. If they make a wild card, they're going to be an absolutely terrifying team to play.
Yeah, I think Puka Nakua was a fifth round pick, and his first two seasons are like all time type seasons for this young of a receiver. It's been ridiculous. Just no one can cover the guy. He makes insane catches. He's dynamic. He's one of the easily a top 10 receiver in the NFL right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Falcons, they went to the Vikings. They lose 42-21. My biggest takeaway from this game is it's time to bench Kirk Cousins. That they've lost four in a row now. Kirk Cousins, the last three games, has no touchdowns and 8 interceptions. I mean, what more is there to say? You've got a guy that you spent a first round pick on and sitting on your bench. I think it's time. I think it's time to let him go. Like, look, no matter what happens, unless you win football games, people are not going to be happy. But this is a scenario where it's like Kirk played himself out of this role. It's been bad. There were stretches of bad play earlier in the season. Like the Steelers game week 1 sticks out to me as another one of those just really ugly performances. But man, Michael Penix, you think it's time to give him the ball?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just the stats speak for themselves. The eye test speaks for itself. There's just nothing to write home about Kirk Cousins as a quarterback right now. He's making terrible decisions. He's actively trying to lose the Falcons games with just these game-changing picks. And so, I mean, the Falcons were in command of the NFC South. They had a multi-game lead on the Bucks, and the Panthers and Saints, weren't relevant at the time, still aren't really, but they had like a commanding lead and should have easily been able to win that division if you just get any sort of competent quarterback play. And now you're behind, now you're free falling, and the Bucks are now in the lead in the NFC South. So at first, you don't start Penix because, well, you did have the lead, and why put pressure on your first rounder like that? Like, hey, we need you to maintain our lead in the division, right? That's kind of insane. But you lost the lead. All bets are off. You're playing with house money now. Go for it. Throw Penix in. See if you can make something happen. And it's not like you got the tiebreaker on the Bucks, so you're one game back. Go see if you can make the playoffs with your rookie quarterback.
Yep, that's where I'm at too. I think one of the things somehow that's getting lost this season. Everyone talked about it early when Minnesota starts out 5-0 or 6-0, whatever it was, and they're really hot. And I think maybe some of that same bias that was why we were so shocked when coming into this season is kind of sticking around, and no one's really talking about them. But they're 11-2 at this point. We'll get into how we view them as a contender in a little bit, but shout out Minnesota, man. It's just a phenomenal season. I don't think it should be understated how well they're playing.
Shout out Sam Darnold, man. He's been balling. He's had a couple, questionable performances, but yeah, they're 11-2. He's dropping insane stats. He's feeding the ball to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. The Vikings look good, so it was just kind of business as usual for the Vikings this game.
Yeah, it really was. Let's talk about some Panthers Eagles action. If you were that better who put 3.1 milli on Eagles money line, you got to sweat that one out.
Hmm.
You got paid, but my gosh, were you on the edge of your seat, especially near the end of that game with the Panthers having a chance to go ahead and win that game, and really probably should have, just based on the drop at the end of that game from Xavier Legette. I love watching that dude. Little side note, but I love watching that dude on podcasts. I don't know if you've seen him
Oh yeah,
talk.
he's the most country dude of all time.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's hilarious. But yeah, Bryce Young looks good, man. He looks like a legit starting quarterback in the NFL. So if you're a Panthers fan, you got to be stoked. Like, what was it? Did he get benched 4 games into the season?
I think so. Yeah.
And I don't know what he did, during the break, but he's dialed right now. You feel good about Bryce Young going forward. You don't have to consider drafting a quarterback, I don't think, heading into next year. So that's the biggest takeaway for the Panthers is, you got the Panthers battling with the Chiefs and Eagles in back-to-back weeks. That's insane. So yeah, I while I do, enjoy watching Leggett interviews, bro's got to catch that ball, man. That's a game-winning touchdown that you got two hands on. You got to get that one. But unfortunate. As far as the Eagles go, the running game still impressive. Saquon, I think, still on track to break the record, I believe. Definitely the leader at the NFL right now as far as rushing yards go. But the passing game, man, it's just not that impressive. Jalen Hurts is just kind of present. He makes I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 throws to like on comeback routes to AJ Brown or out routes to Devontae Smith, but they aren't really getting anything going deep. And really, their offense right now just runs through Saquon, which is okay because it's dominant, right? But I think if the Eagles, let's see a little bit more involvement of some the deep passing attack with your two elite receivers in AJ Brown and Devontae Smith.
Yeah, and luckily for the Eagles, they're kind of in a spot where they're going to get the 2 seed almost guaranteed here, and unless you see the Lions stumble down the stretch. But we saw it. Was it last year where they end up just losing to the Bucks in the first round? They just
Mm-hmm.
faded really really fast. I don't expect that to see them. I think Saquon is just that good that you can just rely on him and just make him the horse of the offense, feed him the ball. And they've looked good. They got a big game against the Steelers this week, and we'll kind of get more of a litmus test on where the Eagles are at. It's a week by week league, so every week you get new data, you look at new games, and you kind of see what's been going on. So not great from the Eagles. End of the day, they still get a win. They're still sitting there maybe with a chance at that 1 seed and that bye, and most importantly, being home throughout the rest of the playoffs, which is a big boost in Philly. But yeah, man, end of the day, Panthers look good. Eagles get the win. It's kind of good on both sides there from that one. Let's get into some Chargers at Chiefs.
They do it
Man,
again.
I don't know what to say. And every week I say I don't know what to say, and then it happens again. The Chiefs, they don't cover the spread and they win, and it happens every week. This time it's a doink off the upright to clinch the division. I mean, I don't get it, man. They continue to just win, and maybe like hats off to them. But I can't. I don't know how serious of a football team they are when they just win these close games. Like you want to have doubts, and then they just keep winning. I mean, it's the same analysis we've been giving them for the last 6, 7 weeks at this point. So, did you see anything new from the Chiefs or anything from the Chargers in this game that changed your mind about either of these teams?
No, not new. I just think it's just what we need to accept and take the Chiefs as. The Chiefs, they have a top-notch defense with legit dudes on every 3 levels. You got Chris Jones, who's still dominant up front. You got Nick Bolton, who's a great run defender at linebacker. And Trent McDuffie is like one of the best defensive players in the league. That dude is awesome. It's an elite defense. It's really good. You got Spagnola. He's able to dial it up consistently. And the offense, it's just it lacks consistency, it lacks explosiveness. That's just how it's going to be. So going forward, I think this is just what we're going to need to expect. So like pretty much every single game needs to be a situational. Okay, we can put this drive together to maybe get 3 points, maybe seven, right? And then we just the Chiefs have to rely on the defense to continue to dominate, and that's just what it is going forward. So it's nothing new. As far as the Chargers go, they really missed Loud McConkey in this game. I thought we saw some good things from Quentin Johnston, who's had a solid bounce back season, but man, they missed Loud McConkey in this game. They struggled, especially in the run game, to get anything going, which kept putting them in like 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 10s, 3rd and 12s. Tough situations where you don't have your number one option. So um, I think if that game goes one more quarter, it seemed like they had kind of figured some stuff out. I think they win that game fairly handedly, but props to the Chiefs for dominating, pitching a shutout in the first half and putting the Chargers in that hole in the first place to make it tough to come back and win. So, yeah, nothing too new. I feel good about where the Chargers are at, and I feel the same about where the Chiefs are at.
Yeah, at some point, like I think there's just no over analysis that needs to go. into what the Chiefs are doing. They're going to be in the playoffs, and they're probably going to win. Like, it's just what they do. It's whether or not they lose a game in the playoffs because they're going to be there and they're going to continue to win weird games throughout the season. And that's really what it is. And that's kind of what you think going into the season at some point is like, okay, they won back-to-back Super Bowls. They want to be the first team to win 3 in a row. All they got to do is get to the playoffs, man. It's kind of like, it's like that. You got a dominant NBA player who's aging, and it's like, just get them to the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. They can be dangerous. The Chiefs just get into the playoffs, and they'll be fine, man. It's frustrating. I don't really want to see them win, but they do, and hats off to them for doing it. Let's move on to everyone's favorite segment. A little bit shorter this week. We had a lot of issues last week, but this week, a little bit shorter. And it's time for These Teams Sucked. First off, man, how about them Bears? They're making it again. I thought they were going to beat the Niners. They did not. They got absolutely smoked. They made it 1% interesting when they got the ball back in the third quarter, down 18. Caleb Williams proceeds to throw. I don't even know if you can call it a throw. Just one of the weirdest fumble turnovers I've ever seen. He tried to tuck the ball after seeing what I'm assuming he wanted to throw the ball, tucks it, ball slips out of his hand backwards. Niners recover. They get the ball. Never ends up being even kind of close again. And they get smoked. I mean, it's just same old for the Bears, man. Just being disappointing.
Yeah, this is the Bears have been in just absolute free fall, man. This is loss number I think 7 in a row
7.
for the Bears. Yeah, they've lost 7. They started off 4-2, and then was like, okay, well the defense is good. Maybe Caleb Williams figures this out. Everyone was talking about the NFC North, how maybe all the teams make the playoffs. Yeah, the Bears, that Hail Mary really just put them in the free fall. They can't bounce back after it. It's been tough, and I guess the 49ers, I mean, they just got beat at every, if the backups of the 49ers are going in with 12 minutes left in the fourth, you had a tough day. You belong on this team sucked. So just bad at all 3 levels. Lost number 7 in a row. You hate to see it, but yeah, Bears, they sucked.
Yeah. You want to get that next one?
I feel bad at this point, bro. I feel bad. But it's the Atlanta Falcons, man. Get Kirk Cousins off the
Yeah,
field.
baby.
We're done
You're
with
not missing a week. Every week you can come back. The Falcons are a staple on These Teams Sucked. I might just start calling it Falcons and Others. That might be the new name of the segment. Holy smokes.
And it's deserved, man. When you're throwing 0 touchdowns and 8 picks, you're on a 4 game losing streak. You lost your division, the lead in your division. You suck that week, man. It's terrible every single week. And they do this terrible thing too where they kind of make it close for the first, 3 quarters or maybe almost 4 quarters, right? But
Yep.
you never like you just know that they're not going to win the game. And so, yeah, that Falcons five times, 5 times in a row. I think it's been every
All
single
5
pod we've
weeks.
done. So, yeah, tough if you're a Falcons fan.
Yeah, it's bad. If your team is on the This Team Sucks list more than the Bears, it's a bad place to be. Shout out Mike Williams watch. We're back, baby. After no receptions for 3 weeks, we're back. 5 targets, 3 receptions for 36. Come on, show some Mike Williams love. We're back. Not much a note other than that. I hope he can, big Mike Williams fan over here. I hope I can start getting hyped. Maybe a little Mike Williams watch Super Bowl segment. That would be sick. Love to see it. But who knows? Anyways, playoff picture. Let's talk some AFC, man. So the Chiefs are currently the 1 seed, Bills at 2, Steelers at 3, Texans at 4, and then for the wild card teams, we have the Ravens at 5, Chargers at 6, Broncos at 7. Worth noting that the Texans, Ravens, Chargers, and Broncos are all 8-5. And then a couple teams that are 2 games back in the Dolphins and the Colts. The Colts also, like I said, 2 games back of the Texans for the division lead because the Texans are 8-5. So a couple of different paths for them. Dolphins are just chasing those wild card teams. And then when we look at the NFC, We've got the Lions at the 1 seed, the Eagles at the 2 seed, Hawks at 3, Bucks at 4, Vikings at 5, Packers at 6, and the Commanders getting that last wild card spot at 7. And then the hunt's a little bit more interesting in the NFC. You got the Rams at 7-6, Cardinals and Niners are at 6-7, and then the Saints are at 5-8, and they're really just 2 games back of the Bucks, and that's their only shot. They're in all likelihood not going to make a run at that 7 seed, but who knows? We've seen crazier things happen. I'm gonna kick this one to you here. What contenders do you feel really good about? Moving forward.
Yeah, so as far as my tier one contenders right now, I think the Lions are easily up there. The Eagles, the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Steelers. Steelers have earned their right to be there, man. Their defense is top five in the league. Their offense is cooking with Russell Wilson. If they can keep that up, man, they're absolutely a tier one contender here. So all these teams, the Chiefs, while we have our gripes with, how unimpressive their wins are, they're back-to-back Super Bowl champions who are going to get the 1 seed most likely now. That was a huge loss there for the Bills. Um, that puts them 2 games back on the Chiefs now with only 4 games left. So that was huge. The Chiefs are definitely more likely than not to get the 1 seed, which means they only got to win 3 games to win the Super Bowl. So they're definitely in the tier one. Bills, Josh Allen's the MVP. He looks phenomenal. The Eagles, it's just I think it's the best roster in the NFL, top down. And then the Lions, they've arguably been the best team in the NFL for the entire season. So yeah, those would be my legit contenders.
Yeah, and we were talking about it before we got on here. Like, are the Steelers a tier 1 or a tier 2 contender? And for some reason, I've got this itch to keep them down at tier 2. I don't know if it's what they've done over the past couple of years or just not wanting to buy in or something. But look, man, they got a top 5 defense. They've got 2 edge rushers that are just absolutely terrifying, just absolute playmakers out there, and their offense is continuing to look better and better. Russell Wilson does not look like the Denver Russell Wilson. He looks more like Seattle Russell Wilson, and they score points in bunches, and they got a top 5 defense. So what are you really complaining about? And I don't think there's any eye test things that I've really looked at him in like, whoa, I don't like that from the Steelers. So I mean, bona fide tier 1 contender. Like, take it as it is.
Yeah. As far as our these tier two contenders here, I have the Packers. Like I said, the couple challenges they've had of playing the tier one teams like the Eagles, like the Lions, um, they haven't quite been able to get over the hump, but they're still a damn good team, man. Matt LaFleur has that offense cooking. They're I think top 8 in the NFL right now, and the defense is solid, man. It's opportunistic. Xavier McKinney, he's racking up picks, and so that's not a team I want to see come playoff time. Second in the tier two of contenders here, I got the Vikings, and I think everyone kind of views them as fraudulent, just because Sam Darnold is their quarterback, and no one's quite convinced yet. But man, you put up 5 touchdowns in a game and do it multiple times in a season, and people all of a sudden people are starting to get convinced, right? This team to me is the best coached unit in the NFL. Brian Flores, it's an okay defense as far as talent goes, but man, he's had some crazy game plans that have limited some fantastic offenses to very little points. And then Kevin O'Connell, man, that dude is just one of the best offensive coordinators in the league. He's done it with Joshua Dobbs. He's done it with Sam Darnold. He's done it with a lot of different quarterbacks now. Kirk Cousins. And so, yeah, the Vikings, it's very good on both sides of the ball because they're very well coached. And so that's not a team you want to see come playoff time. And then third, I got the Ravens. Lamar Jackson still one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL, and that offense can really put up some points with Derrick Henry rushing, with just a bevy of weapons, receiver and tight end. While the defense, isn't really scaring you, hope if you're a Ravens fan, you're hoping John Harbaugh can figure out a way to get the defense right come playoff time. But it's the offense that gets the Ravens into this uh, tier two of Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah, I think much needed bye for the Ravens. They, I think, what dropped like two out of their last three or something going into the break. Now they got 3 games in 11-day stretch coming up. Which, man, putting that Christmas Day game on a Wednesday makes it really tough on those teams. Even they're flexing that game to Saturday. Man, 3 games in 11 days is really tough. I know Patrick Mahomes was talking about, man, that's just really tough on your body as a professional football player. And yeah, man. But they got a bye going into it, so at least a little bit of rest advantage going into it for them. Hopefully, there's a little bit of a turnaround. It seems like they've been trending down the last few weeks. They're a super exciting team to watch, so I hope they do continue to play better. And then other thing to note is that the Vikings at 11-2, they do have a game left against the Lions and are just one game back. And the Lions still got to play the Bills too this week, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But Vikings could definitely still make a run at that one seed. So that definitely keep paying attention to them, man. They're a really quality football team.
Yeah, and so going into my tier three of contenders, these it's kind of labeled as fringe, is what I would say. The Seahawks. The Seahawks have been very impressive in this last 4 or 5 games here. The defense, like we said, has arrived with Mike McDonald and Gino. Man, he's dishing it right now. I think Grubb, their offensive coordinator they got from Washington, University of Washington last season. I think he's finally starting to figure some things out. They're getting JSN involved, they're getting Metcalf involved, they're getting all their talented wide receivers involved. And so I think the biggest thing for that offense was they got their starting tackle back in Abraham Lucas. Ever since he's been back, Gino has time. And if you give Gino time, that man can dish it. So I like what I'm seeing from the Hawks. I don't view them necessarily as, you know, a tough team at the moment. We'll see as they head down the stretch. We got some good uh, test games for them here in their last 4 games, but they're atop the NFC West. Both sides of the ball are firing on all cylinders right now. So we'll see what happens when they get tested by some tougher teams. But I like what I'm seeing from the Hawks. The Rams, I have them in fringe, but man, if they get into the playoffs, I might move them up a tier. This Matt Stafford and Sean McVay, they've won a Super Bowl. The offense looks ridiculous with Cup and Nakua, right? So you just got to make it to the playoffs if you're the Rams, and I'm bumping them up a tier. Right now, they're currently a game behind the Hawks in the NFC West and 2 games behind the Commanders as far as the last wild card seed goes. So it's
They're
going to
only
be a
one
tough
game behind the
path.
Commanders.
1 game behind the Commanders, so maybe it's not quite as tough, but still, you may have a tough path to make it to the playoffs, which is why I'm not putting them up a tier. But I like what I'm seeing from the Rams. And then the Chargers. John Harbaugh, man, phenomenal turnaround here. That defense is fantastic, and Justin Herbert is playing ridiculous right now, dude. He has 1 pick, is that right, for the whole
Yep, one
season?
interception whole season.
1 interception for the whole season. that's that's some John Harbaugh football right there. You play good defense and don't turn the ball over, and look where they're at. They're in the wild card, and they look like a solid team. I don't necessarily think that they'll go win the Super Bowl, but I like what I'm seeing. They definitely have a chance.
Yeah, the way the Chargers take care of the ball, they kind of put themselves in a spot where they can beat any team in the NFL just because, look, if you don't turn the ball over and you force a pick or two and your defense is opportunistic, well, all of a sudden you can go ahead and win that game. Now, I don't think that that's plausible to go on a 4 game stretch and go win the Super Bowl by any means, but on a 1 game basis, I think the Chargers, because of the way they play, have the ability to go compete with anybody in the NFL. Also, like you said, man, Rams are hot. Get them there, and they're going to be dangerous. And for the Hawks, love them, man. 4 game stretch here of nothing but winning. If they do get that 3 seed and can find a way to keep that, and then you got a team that has to go to Lumen traditionally, that has been a really tough place for teams to play in the playoffs. So, you know, win a game and then probably have to go on the road for a second one. But Gino, man, if you give that guy time, he can absolutely dish it. And it's one of those things to me. I don't know if you feel this way, but when I'm watching, one of my biggest eye test things for quarterbacks, like I'm not talking about stats or anything like that. If when I'm watching a quarterback, when he throws a ball, how confident do I feel? Because I'm looking on a TV and I don't see where the coverage is. I don't see if there's anybody open. All I see is the quarterback in the pocket. And when he's in the throwing motion, how confident do I feel? And if Geno Smith has any time at all, I feel super, super confident when he releases that ball. Maybe that's a little bit of Hawks bias, But man, like you said, give that guy time. When he's got the highest pressure rate of any quarterback in the NFL, he's got still, I think, the highest QBR under pressure in the NFL. And that's hats off to Ryan Grubb by giving him some good checkdowns and good looks. But man, feel much better about the Hawks obviously now than 4 weeks ago, and they got a couple of big games up coming up, so we'll find out about them for sure.
Yeah, I mean, 2 seasons ago, right? That was when Gino kind of reemerged. He didn't write back, and he was playing like a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He had an insane season. Took a little bit of a step back last year, but honestly, I think this year he's looking like that didn't write back Gino a couple seasons ago. Just give him time, man. He's got the arm talent. He can read a defense fantastically. I really like what I'm seeing from Gino. I think Hawks did a phenomenal job, figuring out a good contract for him to make sure it wasn't a fluke, but still have some commitment to him. And so I think they're in a good spot and they have a damn good quarterback. Um, Heading into our last tier here, I call this the congrats tier. I don't, as of right now, I don't view these teams as having a shot to really win the Super Bowl. But congrats, you made the playoffs, right on, right? So first team in that tier, I got the Houston Texans, and this is a team that you would hope would be higher, but eye test is ugly, man. They're not really dominant in. I mean, they're gonna win their division handedly, but they don't look dominant against the Titans, the Colts, or the Jaguars, right? Those are not very good teams in the AFC, and they continue to struggle. CJ Stroud just he doesn't look like what we saw last season, and so if rookie season CJ Stroud is able to show up here in the down the stretch, I might bump this team up because the Texans do have some legit talent, and they just need better quarterback play. But as of right now, I just got them in the congrats tier here. But the second team I have is the Commanders. No one expected them to be here, but man, you freaking hit a home run in your quarterback pick in Jane Daniels. He looks awesome. Dan Quinn is getting the most out of somewhat talented defenses. Doesn't have too much talent, so he's getting the most out of it. And while they haven't maybe looked quite as good as of late, still respect to what they've done to have a really good shot at getting a wild card into the playoffs here. But I don't really view it as a team that's dangerous going into the playoffs. The Broncos are in a similar boat. It looks like you hit on your quarterback. Bo Nix is playing fantastic. I'm just not convinced that he's going to play fantastic for 4 straight games and win you a Super Bowl. And that's okay. That's Broncos. You guys had a phenomenal season. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. But yeah, as of right now, I don't view it as a team that's going to make a run in the playoffs. And then finally, the Bucks. The Bucks are kind of the feel good team because Baker Mayfield's fun to watch, and they're 7-6 right now and currently winning a division, which is why they're most likely going to make the playoffs. It's not impressive by any means, and so I don't necessarily view them as a threat. They have had some pretty big injuries across the offensive line. Chris Godwin going out for the season. Mike Evans has been banged up. The defense, it just isn't too good, and so awesome that they're going to win the division. I like that they signed Baker Mayfield, but I just don't view it as a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, it does kind of suck with those injuries to the offensive line and to Chris Godwin because man, the offense could put up some freaking points.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, they're the only team to beat the Lions this year, so it just kind of sucks from that perspective. Like you said, Commanders and Broncos. That's really truly the definition of congratulations. You made the playoffs going into the season. You had no business being here, and you made it. And then with the Texans, that's just you going into the season. People had them, as tier 2, and like some people that were really high on them were like, no, the Texans are like tier 1 contenders. You're going to get that second year step up from CJ Stroud. It just hasn't happened. The offense has not been the same since Stephon Diggs went out, and you know they feel like almost a guaranteed first round exit. Now, I mean, crazier stuff has happened, obviously, but they kind of just feel like a guaranteed first round exit to me. Be that by the hands of the Chargers or the Ravens. Whatever we see coming down the stretch. I'm gonna give you one question here. I think the Rams and the Niners, I'm gonna exclude them from this based on previous playoff success. But of the teams in the hunt, being the Dolphins, Colts, Cardinals, and Saints, Who do you view as having the best opportunity to win one playoff game?
The 49ers, man. I mean, we've been saying it. The 49ers got a crazy amount of talent. If they find a way to win, four straight games and somehow, get the help they need in order to win that division, make the playoffs, that's not a team you want to play, man. It's still a stupid talented team. Kyle Shanahan is still one of the best offensive minds in football. So I would definitely go with the 49ers.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you there, man. You've seen the previous playoff success, so you expect them to continue to be able to do that. Let's get into some Week 15 games. Thursday night football. We're recording this on Wednesday evening, but I'll get this out to you guys before this game happens. So tonight for y'all, it will be the Rams at the 49ers. Crucial division matchup. Like we said, Niners at 6-7, Rams at 7-6. Both teams coming off of really big wins last week. Who do you think is going to win this one?
This is brutal, man. I don't touch this game from a betting perspective. 49ers look dead in the water, and then they go ahead and dominate. Not a very good Bears team, but still tough to get wins like that in the NFL. And so if that 49ers team shows up, and I think they might, they're motivated, they're desperate right now. If they don't win this game, they're officially not going to make the playoffs pretty much. And so I kind of like the Niners to win it, man. I know I've been raving about the Rams, but the Rams do have an issue on defense where they lack overall talent. And so I'm not too worried about the 49ers being able to move the ball on the Rams. And Kyle Shanahan kind of has Sean McVay's number when they play. I think the 49ers have kind of consistently won this matchup over the past few years. And given that they're at home, they're motivated, I kind of like the 49ers in this one.
Yeah, this is the do not touch game of the week. I mean, there's a bunch of kind of scary games out there, but this is certainly do not touch game of the week from a betting perspective. I picked the Rams 27-24 in this one. I just really liked what I saw from their offense last week. And the 49ers, I have a trouble believing in them based on what we've seen from them previously this season. But look, man, it's just one of those games where nothing's really going to surprise me other than like a winning margin of 14 points or more in either direction. It's a very important game, and that's what you got to kind of love about the NFL. We're coming down the stretch here, and it's two teams, divisional teams, both look hot, but they both need it because of how they've been playing previously. So it's not a do or die game, but especially for the 49ers, it's about as close as it gets, man. So just and you have no idea what's going to happen. So sit back on a Thursday and enjoy this game, man. It should be great. Let's talk some Packers at Seahawks, man. Packers are favored by 3 in this one. Over under is 45.5. Once again, man, another important game. It's going to be important for the wild card because if the Hawks win this game, they'll be 9-5, the same record as the Packers. They'll hold the tiebreaker, so it could put them in a spot where if they don't win the division, they could get that tiebreaker and move into the wild card or move up a seed, depending. Packers, man, they got some demons at Lumen Field. The classic, was it a catch? Was it an interception in the back of the end zone?
It's not a
They've got the
debate.
yeah,
We know what it was. That's
yeah,
not a
we do know what it
debate.
was. We do know what it was. It was a pick, but they called it a catch, so that was a win. And then the comeback, the infamous comeback, 7-23 in the playoffs, where guy has the onside kick go right off his face mask. Hawks get it, end up going and winning that game. So not been a good place for the Packers to play over the years in some really memorable games. What are you thinking on this one?
It's tough, Matt. I really like both of these teams. I kind of lean towards the Packers, just given that I have the Packers as like in my power rankings, I got them at number 6 right now, whereas I got the Hawks at number 10. I view the Packers as just a little bit more of a complete team right now, and but man, I could be proven wrong. The Hawks have looked good. I just haven't seen the Hawks pass that test yet of like, yes, this is a tier 2 contender right now, right? I mean, yeah, they're on a 4-game win streak, but 2 of those against the Cardinals. One of those is against the team we don't talk about, who is terrible, and the other was against a 49ers team that and they kind of benefited off some injuries there at the end. And like I said, I love what I see from the defense, but I haven't seen it against a test, right? They were at home against the Bills, which is a legit test, and they got demolished. They were at home against the Rams and lost that game, right? Two teams that I view as better than any of the teams they played in their 4 game win streak. And so I tend to lean towards the Packers here just because I haven't seen it yet from the Hawks. But, I wouldn't be surprised by any means if they prove me wrong. I really like what I see from the defense.
Yeah, as a Hawks fan, man, I hope that Lumen Field advantage really, really happens. I envision that place will be absolutely jumping. It'll be a great scene for Sunday Night Football. Hopefully, we don't get a Chris Collinsworth, Patrick Mahomes reference, but if there is a passing touchdown, there probably will be a Mahomes reference. And I got the Packers winning this one, unfortunately, being a Hawks fan, but I got Packers winning this one 24-23. I think it's close, but
Mm-hmm.
really the big thing for me is what you highlighted with the Seahawks wins are just not super impressive. I mean, you point to their best win being probably the Niners on the road, 20-17 in a game that they won late. So like we've said, man, they've looked impressive recently. I think the Packers might just be the better team. Man, go Hawks, go get it done. But if I had to put my life on it, man, I picked the Packers to go ahead and win this one. Next, we got Colts at Broncos. Once again, man, just this week is full of games, and this is what happens coming down the stretch, but just full of games of teams competing against each other that are directly competing for playoff spots. Not even necessarily like AFC, NFC matchups where both teams need it, but like directly competing against each other. If the Colts do beat the Broncos, they would put themselves within one game of the wild card and possibly one game of the division with the Texans, depending on how their game with the Dolphins goes. It's a Bo Nix versus Anthony Richardson, which should be a fun watch. Broncos are favored by 4 in this one. I like them to cover. I think they win this one 27-20. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I while the Colts have a chance, they are still in the mix. I just view the Broncos as a much more complete team. That defense is tough to move the ball on. And Bo Nix, he as of right now, man, he's a far better quarterback than Anthony Richardson. As far as the Anthony Richardson watch goes, kind of a streaky start to the season, gets injured there for a little bit, and then gets benched because he couldn't complete a pass. Comes back, it looks okay. It's like, okay, we're seeing some promise here. And then it's just immediately back to what we've seen for the entirety of his career so far. It's inconsistent, man. And Bo Nix, he's the opposite of that. He completes pretty much all of his passes. He's been fantastic in that regard. So I like the Broncos to handle business here, pretty much knock the Colts out of any sort of playoff contention and to cover the -4. Yeah, I like the Broncos here.
Yeah. Let's go Steelers at Eagles. Man,
That's
this
a
is
matchup.
it's a matchup of what we consider as a couple of tier one contenders. So should be great. Man, I know you got some strong feelings about this one. I'll kick this to you, man. How do you feel about this one?
I like the Steelers, man. The Eagles are 5.5 point favorites at home, and their crazy talented roster absolutely deserved. But just from what I've seen from the Steelers, the the Eagles are relying heavily on their run game right now, which is makes sense. Saquon Barkley's the best running back in the league. They got one of the best offensive lines in the league. But if anyone's going to be able to stop that, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. You got T.J. Watt, you got Highsmith, you got a fantastic defensive line. You got dudes at every single level of that defense. They're a top 5 run defense in the NFL. So that'll be a very interesting matchup to watch, given that the Eagles are the top rushing offense in the NFL. But overall, I just think as far as quarterbacks go, Wilson has been playing better than Hurts right now. And so as far as two teams that I both view as tier one teams, I tend to go with the quarterback that I think is currently better. And as of right now, that's Russell Wilson. He's just operating that offense efficiently. He's hitting his play action deep shots that he needs to hit, and that run game is able to be effective. And so I kind of like the Steelers to win this one outright.
Yeah, when we're writing down notes before we get into this, I put down my picks and I put down scores, and in the last about 30 seconds, you've convinced me. I'm uh I'm with it on the Steelers, man. I really like what you're talking about with Jalen Hurts and Russell Wilson. I think you look at last week, and the Eagles showed that they do have some flaws. Now you could say the same thing about the Steelers with that Browns game a couple weeks ago, but man, they're a team that's just continuing to play well, and they've got the type of team that can go in to a hostile environment like Philly. Russell Wilson's a vet. He's not going to be flustered. There's going to be none of that, and they're going to be able to go toe to toe with the Eagles. I really love Steelers plus 5.5. Even if they do lose, I don't think it's by a wide margin. So love that bet. Give me the Steelers, man. I'm gonna pick the Steelers to win this one 23-21.
We are not
Let's talk.
responsible for your bets, though. Just FYI, the Eagles are still crazy talented, so it's not a big it's not a big shock by any means if the Eagles are able to pull this one out. But I do like the Steelers.
Yeah, 100%. Another matchup of tier one contenders, man. Just a great slate of football this week. Bills are at the Lions. Lions are 2.5 point favorites. I don't love that line from Vegas. I mean, I like it as a better. I don't love the line from Vegas, but man, Lions have had some red zone inconsistencies the past couple of weeks. Not against the Packers, but the week before that against the Bears, and then the week prior. Um, and their defense is hurt, man. Their defense is real injured. Like we said, 13 players on the IR. I expect Josh Allen to run absolutely rampant in this game. I love Bills money line. I like him to cover that 2.5. I got Bills winning this game 35-27. Who do you got winning this one?
I think I like the Lions. I I get what you're saying as far as the defense is hurt, but you just look at a matchup with what the Bills went through with the Rams, a high-powered offense, and their defense, can't necessarily hang with the top-notch offenses either. And so I just think it's points across the board here. I think Josh Allen balls out. I think Jared Goff balls out. And I will say that I like the run game from the Lions a little bit more from the Bills. So if someone's going to be able to play keep away, it's the Lions. And given that they're at home, I like the Lions here in this one. Not, I guess to cover the 2.5 point spread. Pretty tight line there. Um, as far as over under goes, I kind of lean under. I don't know if I've seen a point total this high, but I think that the Lions will be able to play some keep away, some 6, 7 minute drives, touchdown drives that'll so the under will hit.
Yeah, I think that over under is just really going to come down. I think both offenses are going to be able to move the ball. That over under to me is more about, are the plays explosive, or are they sustained drives into the defense? Are the defenses able to keep them under? I kind of think we're going to see a lot of explosive stuff. I mean, Josh Allen is just that dude. We saw it last week, and like you said, the Lions' offense is really good, and the Bills showed little to no resistance against an offensive attack that is not, I wouldn't say similar in the Rams, but just a very, very quality offense in the Lions. And man, Jared Goff can sling it around the yard, man.
Yeah, I mean the Rams are talented, right? With Puka Nacua and Cooper Cup. Lions are more talented with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameis Williams, Tim Patrick producing for them, and their offensive line is way better. So yeah, it's going to be an even tougher challenge in my opinion.
Yeah, Josh Allen, he's just going to put up some more MVP stats this week. You can count on that
Absolutely.
one.
Oh yeah, he'll ball out.
Bucks at the Chargers. Chargers are favored in this one by 3. Over under is going to be 45.5. You know, I my favorite bet of the week, I think, here is the Chargers to cover the 3. The Buccaneers, they're like we said, they're banged up. The Chargers don't turn. They're not going to beat themselves. So if the Chargers are playing a worse team, I tend to like them to cover. They don't beat themselves. I think they're going to be able to take care of business here at home and beat the Bucks. I got them winning this game 24-16. What are you seeing in this one?
This is just a feel good matchup, man. You got Justin Herbert, you got Baker Mayfield. Everyone likes those guys, so that'll be fun. And I agree with you. The Chargers are just better right now. They play very, very good defense. And Justin Herbert, he's able to find a way to make plays with even though he has limited options. I like the under in this one, 45 and a half. I think that's a few too many points, just given that the Chargers defense should be able to limit a injured Buccaneers offense. And the Chargers offense, especially against the Chiefs, man, they really struggle to run. That's kind of the MO for the Chargers for the whole season. Without J.K. Dobbins, they just don't have that breakaway speed or anything like that at running back right now. And so I don't love the Chargers to put up a ton of points either. So I like the under in this game, but I do like the Chargers to win and cover.
Yeah. And that's gonna bring me to a couple of other best bets this weekend. The Saints are at home and they're 7.5 point underdogs against the Commanders. The Saints, they've won 3 out of their last 4, and the one game they lost was a game they were tied with the Rams in the fourth quarter, which at the time you're like, okay, two middling teams. When the Rams coming out and beat the Bills and look like they're, a much higher quality football team than we maybe thought they were 2 or 3 weeks ago. And give a quality NFL team 7.5 points at home against a Commanders team that hasn't looked super great recently. So I like the Saints to cover 7.5 here.
Yeah. Another one I got here is just kind of what we've been seeing every single week. I like the Cleveland Browns to cover against the Kansas City Chiefs. A 4.5 point spread there. The big one for me is that one, the Chiefs have a massive issue at tackle. Honestly, both tackles, but especially their left tackle. And yeah, the Browns still have Myles Garrett, who is still insane. And so I think they're really going to struggle, especially with pressure. And so I think we see just a really similar game to what we've been seeing every single week. I like the Browns to cover, probably to lose, but I like them to cover 4.5.
Yeah, the Chiefs will not cover the spread and they will win. And I've been telling you that for about the last 4 or 5 weeks, and it's happening every week. So just trust the trends. I like the Browns to cover that 4.5 as well. I'm sure we'll see. Probably they'll find a way to top it. They'll double doink it this week or something, or who knows. We got another one I like is another AFC North team to cover. We're big on the AFC North this week, by the way. But Bengals -5 at Tennessee. Tennessee is just not a good team. All right, that's really the end all be all. Is they are a really bad football team. They put up 6 points in a 10-6 loss against the Jags last week. Just really, really ugly. And the Bengals can score with the best offenses in the NFL. Their record's 5-8, and that's because of their defense. And we've talked about that at length. They're going to be able to score a lot of points, and at some point, I don't care how many points Tennessee can score, they're not going to be able to keep up with the Bengals offense, no matter how bad their defense is. So give me Bengals -5 in this one.
My last one, if you like Dan Campbell, you like risky picks, man. Go with the Steelers money line. They're 5.5 point dogs on the road in Philly against a stupid talented roster. But we already talked about it kind of at length of why we like Pittsburgh. So yeah, just risk it a little bit. Throw some money at the money line for Pittsburgh to go on the road and beat Philly.
Yeah, I think that's one of those value bets. I'm not loving that bet in a parlay, just because it feels really tough. And I got to say a similar kind of bet here. Dolphins money line at +124. The Dolphins have been looking better recently, and I think it's just kind of one of those where it's like, all right, if you're getting plus money and you're 50-50, you take it. I think there's a 50-50 shot the Dolphins can go win this game, and you bet 10 to win 12 and a half or 100 to win 125, however you bet your units. But I think given the value in this game, I like Dolphins money line. Are there any other bets that you're liking this week?
The only other one I kind of like is the Cowboys money line at Carolina. Carolina's a 3 point favorite, mostly because of how well they've looked against the Eagles and Chiefs, but it's still not a very good football team. They're 3-10, and so I just see some value as far as betting on the Cowboys to win that game. The Cowboys have shown that they're still competitive as well in a tough Monday night matchup in the Bengals and a win against the Commanders, and so yeah, I like Cowboys to win that one.
Yeah, and then they had that win against the Giants as well, which isn't saying a lot. Like the Giants aren't a good football team, but it kind of speaks to the fact that the Cowboys are still a credible NFL football team being led by Cooper Rush. That's going to do it for us in terms of breaking down the NFL. A couple things I wanted to let you guys know. Like we were talking about, we are coming to the end of our college semesters here, and so we're going to get to go home and enjoy break. And that gives us a little bit more time. So we're going to be bringing some new stuff to you guys. We're hoping to put out more than 2 podcasts a week. We will be hopefully 3, maybe even 4. We'll kind of see how it goes. I'll be starting up a new Instagram page, moving off of my personal Instagram page over to a new Sports Pod page. I'll be starting a TikTok, and I'll be trying to get more clips out for you guys, so you guys have more short bits of the podcast that you guys can enjoy. We'll try and get to whatever social media you're at. If you guys have any questions, suggestions, anything, obviously feel free to contact us at mmsportspod@gmail.com, or leave a comment on the Instagram, or leave a comment on the Spotify, YouTube, however you guys feel you can reach us. We'd be more than happy to hear you out or answer any questions you guys got. I'm excited about it, man. We really love doing this pod, and this is something we really want to get after these next couple weeks. And for those of you who have been sticking around and listening, we really do appreciate y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to everyone who's been listening to the podcast so far. We've gotten some great feedback, some great advice from people who have listened to it. So just thanks for sticking with us. We're definitely a work in progress, and so hopefully we're able to deliver some even better content here in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate y'all listening, and go make some money this weekend.